Yes, Tiger King. We wanted to talk about Tiger King. I'm ready for this.
Spoilers. If you're not one of the 35 million people who hasn't seen it. It took me a while to watch it.
It was a crazy show. Very weird. So to give you a quick rundown, a recap, if you will, the show follows the big exotic cat world, right? They follow these individuals like Joe Exotic, Carol Baskins, Doc Antle, and various others in these exotic cat worlds that own exotic cats, that breed exotic cats, and have these private zoos.
And kill exotic cats.
Some do, right? Some of these people you may have known or at least seen their work, like Doc Antle has worked with Hollywood many a time, helping and train the big cats for movies. So I've seen his face before. I didn't really know who he was. Even Joe Exotic, I've seen his face before, like Colbert Report and all this other stuff for this crazy stuff he's done, but I didn't really link it up until now, right? So this follows, pretty much their life. It's a documentary of like how these people lived and why they do what they do. It kind of like villainizes some people. Some people are alleged murderers. Not naming names, So it's just.
I'm just saying, if they come after us, it makes the show extremely popular.
Yeah. Carol Baskin may or may not have killed her husband. We don't know.
I don't know.
Talking about Sardino, we don't know. A lot of people are believing so. But this show is definitely a wild ride. If you've watched it, I'm sure you have, because you clicked this video, you wanted to see our reactions to this. I gotta say, I love Joe Exotic. He's a crazy son of a gun, but he was fun to watch. He's great. At first I didn't like him. I was more on Carol's side. I was like, oh, Carol, yeah. Hey, you cool cats and kittens from Big Cat.
Oh, it's so awkward.
And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're doing the same thing, just a different angle. And you're not. Nobody's paying the workers. That's a theme. I don't get it. Nobody's getting paid. They're just going to play with animals. What are you talking about? Okay. Joe Exotic's the man. Let me just say, he's the legend.
Yeah, he's the goddamn devil. He's pure evil. To me. All right. So first off, it took me a while to watch this show.
Yeah.
Because I've been getting texts like, you got to watch it. Why have you not talked about it?
I wanted to avoid it. I was like, I'm not giving.
Same. I was trying to avoid it because I love animals and I'm kind of like not the biggest zoo person anyway. Mm-hmm. I think, preserves are good, and I think, stuff like that is good to protect them, but I'm much more like animals than human beings most of the time. So
fair.
I was kind of cautious to see the show. I didn't want to see, like, at first I thought it was just going to be mostly like a view into like this animal abuse stuff. And it was going to be really hard to watch. And people were like, no, it's not as bad as you think. It's more just crazy entertaining and seeing how actually live and what like type of people there are out there in the world. And I was like,
it was the Jersey Shore of the Midwest. That's what it was.
That's why they call them flyover states. But at first it was insane. We actually watched it in one day.
Yeah?
Once the first episode started, it was like, okay, I can't turn away because it's like I've never quite seen any human beings quite like this before. And how crazy this big cat world is. From every aspect, from the missing Carol Baskin husband to Joe Exotic converting straight men gay.
They were just doing it for the money and the drugs. Let's address that right now.
If only true, but if only straight men could do that with lesbians, it'd be an amazing world. To Doc Antle's more than probable sex cult.
It was Doc Antle's was a very unique situation he had there. A lot of people like Chris was saying,
complete genius stuff. Like, Doc Antle is, if anyone's doing it right out of the three of them, it's Doc Antle, because one, he's not in the show that much, so they're not kind of exposing the stuff he does behind the scenes.
I don't think they could.
They couldn't. Number two, if you notice, he was kind of ahead of the step on everybody. So, like, by the time you get to, like, Carol's crazy, like, I'm going to the courts and try to stop this, you had Doc Antle going there like, here, pet this tiger. Like, so every political person is, like, on camera, and so they can't go back on what they said because there's pictures of it anyway.
And he's strong ties for Hollywood. He's like, hey, you want this cat? You want to put him in my way?
100% genius. He rides on an elephant. He's making women get breast implants when they start working there.
I don't like the brainwashing he did to these women is insane. I can't believe it. And then, but his facility I think is probably the nicest looking out of all of them. Joe's looks like a hillbilly's in the backyard. Carol Baskins looks like it's good, but
he's feeding his people and the animals expired meat.
Oh my god, I can't believe that. He's like, we made pizza from expired meat. I was like, what?
What about the story about the horse? Did you see the after show special?
Yeah.
Where this lady came by and was like, hey, I have a horse I can't keep anymore. Would you mind keeping it in the zoo, giving it a good life? And he's like, of course. She leaves and shoots the horse in the head and feeds it to the tigers. He's like, I ain't taking care of nobody's animal. And that's free meat. It's crazy. It's insane. I actually recognized Joe Exotic and I was like, where do I recognize this guy from? I watch John Oliver almost religiously. It's the funniest way to get the worst news of the week. Yeah. It's the lightest way to get the most depressing stuff on TV. And I remember, they actually showed the clip where he's running for governor and he does his crazy video.
How crazy was that?
The gun-toting, gay, swinging, Tiger King of Oklahoma. And I'm like, I remember this from John Oliver when the last election, he was running for president. And Joe Exotic was in this. I'm like, oh my god, I remember this guy. So that was kind of nuts. The fact that if you think about it, Joe could have just stopped this quickly, right? If he just stopped going after Carol, getting balls, shooting them in the face, throwing dildos at them.
God, he was a monster. He was take these corpses, these training dummies, and just shoot them up. And he had this villainized hate for it was. I tried to figure it out. Yeah, explosive hate. There you go. Nice, smart. I tried to figure out watching it. I'm I don't understand why you hate her so much. Did she do something to you? Did she steal cats? I don't get it.
It's all the ego, man. He wanted to be it's not even he gave a crap about the tigers in the zoo. He just wanted to be famous. He just wanted to be a famous person.
That's what he wanted to be famous.
He wanted to be loved by everybody. And when the craziest thing in this entire show, where I literally was laying down watching this with Erica, and I stood up and was like, what is going on? I'm screaming in my house. Was also the worst part of the show was when his husband accidentally killed himself and shot himself in the head. He goes to the funeral, and in front of this guy's entire family and friends, talks about his balls.
Yeah, I don't get it.
And then starts singing and makes the entire funeral about him and makes it all about him and his pain and and all this stuff and nothing to do about this 22-year-old kid who accidentally kills himself. And he makes it all about him, and I was just appalled and floored. And then 2 months later, he gets married to a new guy and invites the dead kid's mother to the wedding, and she goes.
And it wasn't even a wedding, it was just a photo op.
It was a photo, it was what is it, and she even realized it afterwards. It was the photos were everywhere, so it's if she's okay with it, then it must be okay. And I'm like, yes, he's playing all of you, how do you not see this?
Now,
it was crazy.
You think the singing when he did the country songs?
It was not him.
Did you know that right from the beginning? Because I was afraid.
From the beginning, I'm like, there's no way it's him. I was laughing hysterically.
I thought it was him.
You didn't.
Yeah, I know it was him.
No, you.
I was like, wait.
Literally, he's singing and he's missing the timing of the words. You see him delayed singing. It's so bad, and I'm like, it's not him. Then you see him sing in real life, and he's singing to the tigers, and he's singing to his husbands, and it's he's not actually that's not his voice. Are you kidding me?
In my defense, right? Look at Ozzy Osbourne. You hear him talk, and then he sings like a monster.
He can still do it. He can still go on stage.
He's like a country Ozzy Osbourne. He's a hillbilly Ozzy Osbourne.
Crazy Train, he's killing it. Mom, I'm Coming Home, he's killing it. But he's clearly not singing any of this. His mouth was so delayed, and I'm like, they're passing this off as in him? Are you kidding me? It was hilarious. The Carol Baskin song with the doppelganger was freaking hysterical.
Oh my god! I watched the video afterwards. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, we watched all the YouTube music videos. They were hysterical. But yeah, some of the crazy stuff. I thought it was hysterical when his first like husband Joe, where they're like, hey, like, did you guys ever do meth? And they just pan to him and he smiles and he's missing all his teeth.
Yeah,
like the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Again, man, it's one of these shows where like you know me, I'm always thinking like different directions all the time. If we weren't in the situation where we're in this awful pandemic world where everyone's inside, I mean, I love being inside. This is fine for me, but if we weren't in this situation where it was dangerous and people are dying every day and it's a growing pandemic, it's an awful thing, would this show be as popular as it is?
Yes.
Are we this, well, obviously yes, but are we this destroyed as a society? Like, this is what we talk about and this is what we're going, because if you think about it, right, the show glazes over the tiger abuse and the big cat abuse. It's glazed over. It's more like, hey, look at this dude. He's effing nuts. And this is what he does every day. Look at this chick. She's nuts.
And he records it all. He has all of his own recordings, which is great.
You know, look at this guy. He's got a sex cult. Look at this lady. Might have killed her husband.
Allegedly.
And one of the most awkward, cringeworthy moments, like I'm someone who sometimes will get secondhand embarrassment watching something that's so awkward.
Yeah.
When they after they sued Joe Exotic and like won the case, there's a scene where like Carol's husband's singing to her.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Like, what is happening? Like, I can't.
The wedding photos with Carol Baskin and her husband, and like he's like on a tiger neck thing, and he's like being on a leash, and some weird stuff down there in Florida.
Yeah. Hey man, this is why it's all flyover state. If anything, this definitely. The only thing that made me understand anything is the mind of the Trump supporter. This entire show, I was like, oh, I get why they voted for him now. This makes sense. Like,
so
it was insane.
Going back to what you were saying before, would this show be as popular if we were in quarantine? And I said yes. I still think so. I think it would have taken a little bit longer for it to get those numbers. It's still pop culture headspace now, right? Yeah. But it's starting to fade away a little bit just because of like that's just the cycle in, right?
Yeah, because it had the huge boom for the last 3 weeks, and it's still number 2 on Netflix.
Yeah, I think it would have like took a little bit longer to kick off because people are like, oh, I'll watch it when I get home, stuff like that. They're working, but we just had a ability to watch it quicker, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I think of this. This whole show blew my mind. Like I couldn't believe some of the things I was seeing. It's hysterical.
Dude, they used expired meat to make a pizza place. And the guy's like, this is the best pizza I ever had. And I'm like, the meat is expired. Like, it's disgusting. Like, he was paying these guys like $150 a week. And they were working like 8 a.m. to midnight sometimes.
What about the guy who got his arm ripped off?
Oh my God!
His arm, and then
the guy, girl, not girl guy who they messed up, and she
trans,
she sees herself as a man, and they call him it's Sif, right, or Saf?
Yeah, Saf is a man. Yeah,
and he got his arm ripped off.
Yep.
By a tiger.
And he was cool with it.
Back to work 4 to 5 days later. First of all, the second you sue, that place gets shut down. Like that.
He didn't sue. He got no money for that. I can't believe it. I would have sued the shit out of him. I'd be like, listen, this is my zoo now. It's gonna be called the Rob Moran Zoo, and it's gonna have a logo of me with one arm walking around like I'm a champion.
Dude, what about the tiger that like almost like dragged Joe Exotic to his death?
I thought Joe was gonna die.
Like, it literally, like, took his... And it's like... And then you had the, like, whole thing where it's like... You know, he's like, oh, someone put cologne on my shoes. And then they switch to Carol Baskin. She's like, why would I... She's like, you think I'm going to go to Oklahoma and put, like, cologne on a man's shoes? And, like... Which, of course, is ridiculous. But then she's like, if you want to kill someone with a tiger, you got, like... It has to be something they like sardine oil. And everyone's like, how did she know this?
Oh, Carol!
Yeah, and she also won't take a lie detector, by the way. Just throwing that out there. But it's
lie detectors don't prove anything, but Just saying that you wouldn't?
They also prove a lot more than not. But it's also a technology that's been around for 100 years. Like, it seems like an easy thing you could just do. But it's one of those things where it's like, these people are crazy, and yes, they exist. And also, hey, let's not forget that the real victim are these endangered cats and tigers. And like he had, there's one shot where he has like 2 chimpanzees, where he's talking from jail, where Joe Exotic's talking from jail, and he is, he had these 2 chimps. He basically had suicidal chimps.
Yeah.
Like, they were like depressed and like almost like you see in cartoons, the monkeys that are in the circus and they go in the back and smoke cigarettes. He's like, yeah, the second they went to this like zoo, they like hugged each other for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not normal, man. Like, like the stuff that was going on there is not normal. I thought the most heartbreaking thing was they're taking the tiger cubs the second that they're born.
Yeah, they're milling them,
which ruins them for life from the other tigers. He had like over 140 tigers in this place. Like, it was nuts. So I think hopefully more than anything, more than the entertainment value, more than making us feel better about ourselves watching this, that it actually shows the real issue here with these big cat people and what's going on with big cats. And
let me ask you a question. The 2 questions everybody wants to know.
Of course.
Okay. Do you think Joe actually ordered the hit and tried to get Carol killed? Second question, is Joe going to get out of jail?
Number 1, yes, but not knowingly. I don't think he was smart enough to realize he did it.
I'm with you on that one. I think he did it without knowing.
I think the guy made a living out of talking out of his ass.
Yeah.
And if you see all the crazy, stupid stuff he did with money and the crazy, stupid choices he made, like, he had a TV show where he talks about, like, killing her. Even if he didn't put the hit out. By the way, that guy, the white dude with the teardrop, one of the most terrifying human beings I've ever seen in my life.
Why was he in the bathtub?
What? Why?
Why was he in the bathtub?
Why was he in the bathtub?
Why were the directors and the writers and producers of the show be like, that's a great shot. Let's put him in the bathtub and have him talk.
Where he's like, yeah, he gave me $3,000 and was going to give me 2 more, and I just took it and ran to a strip club and spent all my money. I think 2 things. I think the new guy who took over Joe Exotic's place is a con artist, plain and simple.
Yeah, he's a monster.
He's a con artist. He's like everyone in this show has had like prior criminal records, like not just regular priors. Yeah. Like, hey, I didn't pay parking tickets and I have a warrant out. Like, prior legitimate criminal records.
How weird was it with that con artist? He's like, oh yeah, I hired a nanny and it's this smoking hot girl, and his wife's like, yeah, she's hot. I'm like, what are you doing?
They have this open relationship, and he once you started with like where he would take baby tigers, shove them in like suitcases,
yeah,
and take them to hotels and just invite girls over and like have these ridiculous like Mike Tyson-esque parties. Oh it's God. Like, all right, this guy's clearly after one thing only. So like, yeah, like he just wants like women. He wants to be like basically like a gigolo. And he has a wife who's like completely insane, and they have a kid now, which is great because they're bringing more people into the world, which most of the world does not need to have kids. Let's be serious. And then you have, also abusing these little tigers, throwing them in a freaking cage in this like suitcase and zipping them closed and sneaking them into hotel rooms is insane. And he got caught for it, went to jail for it, amongst other things. But there was one part where he comes back and he finds out like the stuff Joe Exotic has been spending his money on that he put into the
campaign, right?
The campaigning stuff, which is insane, right? Like, and the campaigning stuff for the president and the governor, which also tells you about Oklahoma that he was the number 3 in Oklahoma and actually like had like 34% of the vote. He literally like is spending money on this stuff where it's like he's like, oh, I love these animals, I love these animals. You don't see him for like the middle to end part of this entire documentary, reality TV documentary, around tigers, unless he's doing like Tiger King photo shoots or he's doing like his, rootin' tootin' vote for me stuff. was like, what is going on here? Like, it went from Carol suing him to, like, losing that lawsuit to running for governor and running for president, which made no sense, and putting all that money into that. And it's like he was just a victim of his own ego. Like, he couldn't stop. He couldn't stop trying to be in the limelight. And it was all publicity stuff, right? Like,
so getting back to the second question I asked,
yes.
Does he get out of jail? I think he's going to get out of jail with good behavior within the next 10 years. What do you think?
I think so, too. And I think he's going to get out. And I don't know if he's going to get out as soon, but I think it's going to be a lot more open cases. We know as a result of this show, there has been the case has been reopened about Carol's husband who's missing.
Oh.
That case is now reopened, and they're looking into that in real life. Like the cops are looking into that again.
There could be a part 2, the Tiger Queen.
There you go.
So Carol Baskins murder.
The one question I do have is, I don't know how Joe Exotic goes to jail, but not everyone else. I don't know how he's in jail, but not like the dude in the bathtub, the guy who took over Joe Exotic's zoo and shut it down, and they're making like this new one that's massive. And the crazy guy from Ohio's there, and then he left.
See more of them. I think the cases on them are still open, and we're going to see them in a jail cell right next to
the fat informant guy with the bowl cut.
Oh my! How great was that scene? We all know what scene we're talking about. Him on the jet ski to Eye of the Tiger. He requested it, and they're like, sure.
I've never seen it. It might be the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. How many? Also, I have a question for you. Give me a ratio, like a 1 to 3, 1 in 5. How many people for this Halloween are going to be Tiger King characters?
I know.
He's like, I know I will be.
I'm going to be Joe Exotic, and you're going to be Joe Exotic. We're going to be Joe Exotics. We're going to start a band. I'm a good 30%.
Oh, that's a good one. I actually think the one guy who was actually a good dude was one of the first guys he hired.
The producer guy.
Well, the producer guy who was also really stupid for not backing up any of his stuff.
Oh, Joe definitely burned that down.
Joe definitely burned that studio.
He killed the alligators. He did all that. We 100%.
But the fact that you didn't back up your stuff, just stupid. 2, if anyone watches the Chappelle show, he looks like the holla 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 guy. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The producer guy with the cowboy hat. But the blonde haired guy who was actually like the manager and was like, the one who's of all the cats, and was the one who was like, no, like I'm the one with them all the time. Like I'm the one who's taking care of them. And he's the one who basically had to trick the tigers into when they got shot and killed. That's nuts. I think a lot of people kind of glazed over that because of the crazy personalities that are being thrown in your face. And also the guy with no legs who, like, where you're like, oh my god, this had to be a tiger accident, and it was a ziplining accident. So you're like,
right?
What? Like, what happened?
Dude, that was awesome.
It was crazy. But yeah, it's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. There's no way I would ever rewatch it because I don't think
you need to. You watch it once.
I don't think you need to. I think one time's enough. I think if a sequel comes out, which I'm sure they'll do because I'm sure Netflix made so much money off of this.
I'm gonna watch it.
I would totally watch it. It's gonna be interesting to see how these investigations go. Again, I get why Joe Exotic's in jail. He should be in jail. He's a monster. Uh-huh. But I don't get how all these other monsters get to walk free. I don't get, even if you take Carol Baskin and Doc Antle out of this for right now, the people that surrounded Joe Exotic and paid for this stuff and were talking about it with him, and besides the fact that Joe had the TV show where he killed Carol Baskin on his show every day, and said crazy things and did crazy things and offered money for crazy things, I don't know how these other people aren't being, they're probably being investigated, but they're not going down with them. So it's weird.
The campaign manager guy, I think he was also a good guy. Yeah.
I felt bad for him.
I did. He wants to run again. He wants to do another political campaign. I'm like, you're done. Nobody's going to take you seriously.
No one's going to take you seriously. Yeah, again, like, he's like from the Midwest. He was working at a Walmart. He was a poli-sci major. Like, this guy was running for office and offered him this manager job. Of course he's going to take it.
Yeah, right? You have to, no matter what.
So, like, it was the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm sure he's getting real famous from it right now. He's getting his 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
But this guy is mentally scarred from his experience, right? Like, he saw a man.
He witnessed the suicide.
Yeah. And just watching it, like, even on our view, where the camera, like the security camera could only see him and his reaction, you can't see, honestly, thank God, you can't see him shoot himself. And
I don't think they would have showed it if they could.
I don't think they would have either. I hope they wouldn't have. But his reaction alone was enough. Like, he is going to be messed up from that for the rest of his life. And then, unfortunately, that's just the after effects of Joe Exotic. And then, Joe Exotic getting married 2 months later. Like, what?
Yeah.
And talking about a man's balls at his funeral.
And then you take out his balls and show them his balls, make me feel better. Like, yeah, that's what his mother wants to hear. Tell me more about my son's balls in your mouth.
What? Like at a funeral?
At a funeral, not a party, a funeral.
Not a party, at his funeral, and then singing, making it all about him. It was some of the craziest antics I've ever seen human beings do. And like, also, can we really quick talk about like Carol somehow getting all these like middle-aged divorcee depressed women to volunteer for like every day, where the lady's like, no, I don't miss Christmas. It's like, what do you mean you don't miss Christmas? Like, Carol, I didn't see Carol put a food bowl down. Like, I didn't see her do anything. Like, she has like this, like almost like her own cult of women that just do things for this 12 cat preserve.
People love cats, so they're going to do anything, and people love these animals. They think they're helping. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are. Some of them are taking this sacrifice, this volunteering. Good for them. It's just, this show kind of just shows how people can be taken advantage for and how animals can be taken advantage for, and how crazy some of these people can be in this world.
Yeah, you're being nice. I was going to say it shows how really stupid people are. And how dumb people are because they're so easily taken advantage of and no one's thinking. They're just doing things.
Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, it was amazing to watch, like, some of the thought process and especially with the one-on-one interviews with, like, especially like Joe Exotic's husband, like the talking and stuff.
Oh, great.
Like,
before we wrap up, guys, I want to talk about the Joe McHale after the show.
Yes, interviews with everybody. Like, the first one died laughing.
It was hysterical. It was funny. But, like, moving on to, like, talking about the whole show, as if you will, and the fact that they interviewed the people in the series, it was. I can't believe that Netflix got that done, right? Like, let's have a review of the series. Let's have these people come on and talk about it.
It was smart.
Smart. It's great. And I think that's something they should do more often, because they had like Making a Murderer and like other shows like this. And this is the first time we kind of had that like closure. And it was great to see all these people, what they're doing now and how they're living. They're happier. They're all happy. Joe's gone. They all think Carol's
Joe got teeth again.
Yeah, he's got teeth again. He's a father. He's no longer on drugs. It's great.
As we know.
I just said overall the show, even that after special, was great. Fantastic. My favorite scene, aside from that bathtub cry, is definitely the jet ski. Like, the
jet ski is so great.
Any closing thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I thought for the after show, what you were talking about, the first guy who was the guy who actually cared, who was taking care of the animals, like, Joe McHale asked him, like, about how his hair is so nice and gold, and how many times a day he washes it, and possibly the greatest response I've ever heard come out of a human mouth is, "Oh, I don't have time." When you're getting peed on every day, there's no time to wash your hair, which is the funniest thing, because wouldn't that mean you'd wash it twice as much? His response is, "I don't wash it because it gets peed on every day," which also makes me wonder why his head is down there. Anyway. Great, hilarious. I would say the expired meat thing threw me for a loop. The Walmart truck of expired meats was awful.
And the people the employees would eat it because they weren't getting paid enough.
Yes, like the employees were like, "Oh, this one's still frozen," and it was like a win for them, right? Like they got to take that home and like maybe have non-expired meat.
We can keep going on and on about this show.
We can, and I'm sure there's a billion things we haven't touched on, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, hopefully this gets more positive out of realizing this is a big cat situation, not a crazy human being situation. and the big cats get taken care of.
All right, guys, that wraps up our review of Tiger King, Netflix.
Murder, Mayhem, and Mystery.
Murder, Mayhem, true crime documentary. Give us your review and your thoughts on the show down in the comments below. What you think of this big cat fight, of this epidemic, this show, Joe Exotic, Carol Baskins. I'm definitely excited to hear all of your theories.
Yeah.
And guys, that is the end of this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We had a nice, healthy meal of entertainment, news, and reviews to talk about with you guys. It was great. It was a heavy week, and I loved it. I hope you guys loved it. Make sure you follow us on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Jersey Comic Crew, and Cruz with a K. But, of course, you know that because you are here. As always, I'm Rob Moran.
And I'm Chris Heller.
And we'll see you next time.
JerseyComicCrew.podbean.com. Stay safe, everybody.